Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. Welcome back, Aspire Leaders. Once again, this month, I'm consistent with my guest, Mitch Weathers, where I was joking last time that I dropped the ball. We hadn't been together since, I think, December of last year.
I know, that's crazy.
It is crazy. And life got away from me. I'm not going to blame anyone else but myself. But now I get to not only record with Mitch Weathers for Aspire to Lead, I also get to do it for a new project,
Yes.
VIBE Edu Podcast. Mitch, how on earth did you get stuck with me for 2 podcasts?
I don't know. You wrote me in, man. You're such a good host to just enjoy our conversation. So,
wow, it's thick in here.
I'm excited already. In what, 2 recordings? It's been really engaging and fun conversation.
Yeah, for those who don't know, we organically just kind of created a podcast that's hosted on YouTube and Spotify. And I can put those links in the show notes for everyone because we definitely want you to check out those conversations because it's not only myself and Mitch, but also Kim Gamaros and TJ Berry. You probably know them from different spaces. Kim obviously has been on the show. Actually, TJ too.
Oh, good.
They do phenomenal work. Yeah. They're authors, they're speakers, they're podcasters. They do it all. In addition to the fact that we have a vast range of experiences from the group.
Yeah, I think that's what's making the conversation fun and engaging.
And so there's not only the different experiences, different roles, but then also we're in 4 totally different areas of
geographies. Yeah.
So
she hasn't presented a scheduling challenge yet.
Not yet.
It's good that one of us is not in Hawaii because that would start to complicate things.
I can't even imagine. But right now, I think we're hitting all of the 4 time zones right now.
Yeah.
You're Pacific. I'm Mountain. Kim is Central. TJ's
East. Very cool.
But
look at you with your geography skills.
I'm rocking it.
Because you were a soccer player growing up. We already discussed that.
That's a different conversation, sir. But yeah, both me and you played soccer, and we didn't realize how competitive we both were in that sport. We just kind of landed on that. But obviously, the more that we talk with the 2 podcasts, the more we get to learn about each other, and it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. So where are we going today? What are we chatting about here?
I figured I'd just push record and we figured out, but you actually said something on the VIBE Edu podcast, which was that you had a person send a comment to you, and it kind of spawned this idea of kind of what was resonating that comment, which was like just the fact that they felt like you were really speaking to them through your professional development, and how it was more about like the student and the underlying needs of that child and their experiences and how that might be really affecting their production in the classroom. We also talked, we didn't push record on this, Mitch, but we had a really interesting conversation. It was TJ, myself, and you on just like the classroom environment and how that really affects students. TJ was sharing a story, and I hope we can do this on VIBE Edu, of just like how distracted he was in that classroom environment with things on the walls. I was joking that on my classroom, it was just complete visual overload. As an art teacher, I had paintings on the walls, on the ceiling. I had, art elements and all these like text and things for kids to like remind them of. And then I remember parents walking into my classroom just going, whoa, like that was always their first reaction. And after 6 years in that classroom, I was always thinking like, I wonder if that's a bad thing. Like, is that really affecting students and maybe just their behavior? And maybe it's, maybe for some students, it's affecting their skills and the things that they're working on. And so TJ will all kind of, with his story, really gave some validity to that. But then you also chimed in also. So, and I think this all connects as far as the classroom environment, but then also like what's underneath some of the behavior. So will you just speak on, that comment and kind of where it came from?
Yeah. The question we were discussing on the VIBE EDU recording was that, when did professional development shift for us as educators? And all 4 of us have the privilege of being in a professional development role with individual teachers, schools, district, right? And for me, what I do every time I have that privilege is lean into the practical side of what I'm teaching. Like I want educators to leave and have action they can take the very next day if they wanted to. And so the comment that came from a middle school teacher was really interesting because we were talking about, how students, one, to your point, behavior, how they're doing in the classroom with the content, the curriculum, just, overall. And this teacher had said, this program, Organized Binder, has taken, I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't recall, but has recognized what is so often overlooked in the classroom, that students' lives outside of school are unknown to us. And certainly that's not the case all the time, but unknown to us. And that for students who don't know how to do school, act like a student, however you want to frame that, that's happening because they haven't been taught, they haven't learned that yet. And that this professional development, this program has taken action on solving that. It's action, it's that practical side. And that for me is the shift in PD. And we had talked about, I've had some very interesting speaking opportunities even this summer, one with Cambridge University, and I had referenced some stuff with Stanford, where places where as a teacher I get there and I'm like, why am I here? That full imposter syndrome that we were talking about. And then
Sure.
Having to just hold tight to the feedback I've received from educators on that practical side, like taking action and just be me and lean into that. So, and how that all translates into the environment is there's this manifestation of student behavior or lack of success, or we talked about a bunch of different things, and it may not be the underlying issue. It could very well be, in my case, a student's lack of executive functioning and practice with and exposure to those skills and habits that we know lay the foundation for learning and success in life and school. But it could also be other things. And then we kind of drifted over into the environment and how that can be on play. I think that's what we were talking about, right?
Yeah. I know it was a little while ago, so it's hard to remember. And we went in so many different directions too. I want to get to the practical piece, Mitch, because these conversations, me and you, that we do once a month are not typically very long. So I want to dive into something that they can use right away. I know, and I've heard you speak on like the retrieval practice that teachers can implement in their classroom. Curious if you wouldn't mind sharing that strategy and what teachers might be able to do to help specifically in what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you follow the emerging, not even emerging anymore, science of learning community and how we learn is not, the jury is not out on it. Like we know that there's specific strategies that teachers can incorporate in conjunction with what they're already doing that literally just amplify success and retention. And probably top of the hill on that is a strategy called retrieval practice or spaced retrieval. And retrieval is just what it sounds like, is I have to go back, and I love this way of framing it, is that I have to access information that's no longer perceptually present for me, right? I can't, AKA, see it, access it. I have to then, okay, I've learned it, I've experienced it, I've interacted with whatever it is, and I have to go back and retrieve it and hold it in kind of cognitive space long enough to do something with it. And that cognitive space, I write a lot about this in book 1, and I'm working on book 2 right now, co-authoring that project. We probably mentioned that. And it's all about, this retrieval is and working memory is a big part of it. But, we have short-term memory, which is kind of a passive, temporary holding place. We have long-term memory, which is where we want to go. But working memory is this active cognitive space. And so when students are retrieving, then they're holding that stuff and that's that working memory. And we know that's really kind of the engine for learning, but it's finite. So we really have to protect that. And when we talk about environment and distractions, maybe in our environment or whatever it might be, that's really what's happening there. Is it's a cognitive load, an extraneous load that's taxing a student's working memory. So there's just simply less bandwidth available to use when I'm trying to retrieve, when I'm trying to stay focused, pay attention, etc. So what I tried to do in recognition of the power of retrieval is maybe wrong way to say it, but to kind of systematize it into a program. That's what I talk about in book 1, and that's Organized Binder, the beginning and concluding routine. Yep, that's book 1. Beginning, including routine, not anything different that a teacher has to do, but we begin and conclude every learning session, if you will, called a class period with retrieval. But it's just routine. So it's not something else a teacher has to do. And that's where we have to be careful with even strategies that are proven. If we're adding too much to a teacher's load, there's cognitive load for students, there's teacher load that's a real deal too. So how do you make that just kind of the rhythm, to borrow from our Waldorf friends, the rhythm and routine of the day? It's just how we do school. But if how we do school incorporates that retrieval, it's kind of a win-win. And then there's a win-win-win. The third win is back to getting to know students' lives outside of school. We're kind of mashing up a few things, but I really unpack this in book 1. That concluding routine, if it's retrieval and students writing to me about what they're learning, what they're confused, however, and it's a private one-on-one conversation, it has a powerful impact both on learning, but then the formative assessment, that formative piece for teachers. Talk a lot about this in the book because it's the only place I dare teachers to try it, because it takes some time. You have to read the student feedback, not on the daily, unless you somehow have superhero bandwidth. That's the exit ticket, and I take aim at that in the book. But on the weekly, back it up a little bit. It's I dare people to try it, because you walk in and it's like having a pulse on students the next week in a way that homework and classwork will never tell you. You get to really know them as an individual, which is powerful.
Yeah. Mitch, I'm going to pause real quick because I do want to talk about like something that's going to help your daily routine and everyone that's listening, and that also help my memory, my bandwidth help to increase, which is this performance shot. So if you've been watching on YouTube, been drinking this while Mitch has been throwing down some wisdom and insight, and it's something I've been taking for like 2 years daily, and
Wow.
I get it directly to my door. I get a monthly supply, and you probably, like I said, for my listeners, have probably heard me talk about Magic Mind. It's this awesome performance shot that really helps leaders, because obviously we make 1,000 decisions in a day. We have a lot of communication. We have a lot of things that are on our plate, and it can be extremely stressful. There's been a lot of folks talking about mental health and burnout on the show. And this little productivity shot is one that's helped me because it's got matcha, it's got daily vitamins, it's got neurotropics, which was helping with my focus, my energy, staying calm under pressure, which Mitch and I have to deal with as we fly around the country and work with educators. So I take this with me on every trip. And it also doesn't come with that afternoon crash that so many other drinks provide. So it's all natural. Love it. And like I said, it gives clarity, helps me show up for my best self each day. And if you want to try it, I'm going to throw up, for those who are watching on YouTube, I'm going to throw up the link here for you with the code that's going to give you 56% off your first subscription or 20% off a one-time order. And that's magicmind.com/ATLMMJ. And that's also the code, which is ATLMMJ. And I'll have that in the show notes because I know that's hard to remember. If you're listening on a podcast platform, driving somewhere, I will have it in the show notes for you to click and be able to get that savings. I want you to give it a shot. I want you to try it. And I guarantee, as the summer's here, it's going to help you with your daily routine and also for an amazing school year upcoming. Let's talk about some of the other aspects teachers can have. And one of them being those one-on-one conversations or one-on-one meetings with students. I think that's probably a good segue from what you were talking about with like that student feedback, because we don't have superhero bandwidth, like you were saying.
Recorded daily. Students are reflecting daily. And the intent
Correct.
is, at least with the routine that I unpack in the book and Organized Binder, that is daily. And I think that's important because of the retrieval component. It's just trying to access and meaningfully read every student response. I think it's more sustainable if we back it up on the weekly.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified. I was hoping people weren't going to get like super stressed out and shut down if they heard their work was daily as far as looking at feedback. So I'm glad you clarified that. And then will you talk through kind of that private conversation component and how that's helpful for our teachers?
Yeah. So what we call it the learning log. And I when I was designing the program, I did that on purpose because I tried the exit ticket
Mm-hmm.
And it's a much more like well-known name or strategy. And it makes sense, like, because of what happened to me early on as I was designing, and for anyone listening that doesn't know me, I spent most of my career as a ninth grade science teacher. And, at the high school level and middle school, same, there's a pace to it. And I usually had 2 or 3 preps, but I would sometimes have the same lesson once or twice, 3 times in the same day. And so you design all this and working on engagement and all this stuff happening. And at the end of session, the end of the class, I just remember clearly thinking, like, did it work? Did it, like, the whole point here is, like, here's our objectives. I mean, I had all that stuff. I was being explicit. And then I defined success early on as a classroom teacher based on whether or not I got through my lesson plan, which, by the way, I designed in isolation with the textbook, because this was pre-Google.
Yeah.
This was like, I had no team, I had no collaboration. So I was kind of just making it up.
Mm-hmm.
And really, of course, I mean, I know teachers, if you're listening out there, have had this experience, or leaders who were once teachers, or leaders who have teachers doing this, like, you're all in, and I'm staying up till super late and coming in. I would type up my whole lesson plan. I had it all there. But what really started haunting me was I could get to the end of a unit of curriculum, let's say 3 or 4 weeks of what we're learning, and offer a summative assessment, only to find out that like 50% of the kids weren't really learning it. And I scratched my head. I'm like, I'm collecting homework and grading classwork, and I'm using those pieces as formative assessments, and they may not be sharing, like, homework as a formative assessment is wildly inequitable first, but it may be completely unreliable in many ways. And I didn't know that. And then somebody shared a comment with me that, the formative feedback is your wellness checkup. And we know for medicine, like, the more preventative care, the more we're checking in, the better. The more wellness checks, the better. The summative assessment's the autopsy. We're done. It's over. Yep. So let's see what happened. And that really struck me with, like, you're right. How do I get that mechanism? And I started trying the exit ticket. And now I had a couple things. And this is where I take aim at it. That strategy in the book is, one, no one's ever going to argue that if you could get authentic, real student feedback every single day, that's not a good thing. But when we look at it in light of 2 things, and I mentioned this already, sustainability, right? I would collect all these little pieces of paper, and as a high school teacher, I might have 150, 160 of these. And there's going to be days where I don't have time or the energy, or let's just be honest, like, I just don't care right now to read 100. I have to plan for whatever, all of that's going on. And there's things that'll happen, and I unpack this in the book, that I think are really important. Some people be like, well, I just take a few from each class to get kind of a gauge for where we are. And I argue that you do not do that. Do not have students personally write to you and then take an average of the class like you would, like, on a test average. And I've had this conversation with leaders where I'm like, this is not a class average. This is an individual personally writing to you about what they feel like they've learned, or they're confused, or what's going on. And in that process, so keeping it sustainable, backing up once a week. But the other thing with the exit ticket that bothered me is I would get all these, it was a one-way conversation. I would get all these comments from students, feedback at the end. And then what do I do with all these little scraps of paper? Even if I hand them back, with my comments, where do they go? I'm not capturing this ongoing dialogue, this conversation we're having over the course of a school year, which is powerful. And that's why it became also 5 days a week, because it was on one simple piece of paper. And on Friday, when kids were leaving, they would put it in the basket by my door that had a sign, an arrow, and I would read them and hand them back the next week. So in doing so, that it both became sustainable. And I found that a week was plenty of time to make adjustments with that formative feedback I was getting. But what I stumbled upon is that when students knew that I was reading them, it changed the game. Think about what that communicates, Josh. Like, it's something different than saying, I'm going to collect your homework or your classwork and grade it or check it, which of course I was still doing.
Sure.
But now I'm going to you're just writing to me. I just want to hear where this is landing. Because we know, I mean, the truth is the only way to know if students really got it at the end of a lesson or end of a school day is to sit down one-on-one and have a conversation. Have you demonstrate it for me? But we can't do that. We can't do that if we're in a self-contained class of 20 kids. It's just not possible. So finding mechanisms that become routine to have those insights, those little windows. I used to talk to teachers about, it's like having a portal, like you're just getting inside that student's head, but it's no stakes. It's just, hey, talk to me, write to me. And what I stumbled upon is that students will often find that students that may not have their voice yet in the class, or that are carrying back to the initial comment of life outside of school could be anything but predictable, could be chaotic. Like, we don't know, it's unknown. Use that conversation because it's private and they knew I was reading them to reach out for help. And that's where I tell some, I think, really compelling stories, make people think. So there's a lot wrapped up in that formative piece. So I know where you are, and then the retrieval and knowing students, all of that. So did I go off on a tangent, or did I answer your question?
You did, but it was a good tangent, Mitch. I love it.
I can't remember. Sorry. Get me started on all this, and it's 2 hours later.
It's all wonderful, Mitch. That's why I have you on this podcast so often. So if someone's listening, I know Mitch has talked about like, the last time we talked, we tried to do this monthly. I already, fessed up that I dropped the ball for about 6 months, but we had one last month. So I want everyone that's listening, if you haven't caught that, go back and check that out. But then also, Mitch, I think we probably have another like maybe 10 or 12 episodes that we've recorded based on this book. For those who are watching on YouTube, Executive Functioning for Every Classroom, Creating Safe and Predictable Learning Environments, grades 3 through 12. Mitch, last time on the last episode, shared some exciting news where he's actually writing a second book with a co-author, and Sarah's brilliance, which I haven't met her yet, but I've heard just phenomenal things.
It's just so amazing. Yeah.
I mean, obviously much smarter than Mitch, and is going to bring so much more value.
1,000%. Yeah. I'm the lucky one in this project. No, you speak truth, my friend.
Yeah. But I'm super excited. We'll have the both of you on when the book launches, and we'll make sure that we cover that book. And I'm so excited. I haven't had a chance to read it as you are literally creating it as we speak. Yeah. So I'm super excited about that resource.
K through 3. So that'll be the edition. Executive functions K through 12. Yeah, that's the idea.
I have Mitch on because I believe in his work. I believe in him as an educator, as someone that provides professional development in his company, Organized Binder. For those who've been watching, again, on YouTube, I've been flashing up organizedbinder.com. So if you're looking for some phenomenal professional development, definitely go there. Check out all the wonderful things that Mitch has got going on. We're going to have all those links, including social media. I was joking with you on the last VIBE Edu podcast that you don't do social media, but that's not true. You're actually getting better with each day. Maybe each month.
Maybe each month.
Each year.
I'm around. You can find me.
You can find them. So we'll put that in the show notes. I'll make sure that the new project we got going on, I'll have that too. So all the links will be there for you all. Of course, too, I'm trying to be better about YouTube. Obviously, with traveling and some of these other endeavors I've got going on, I'm probably behind. But youtube.com, if you like the video format / Joshua Stamper, that'll get you to videos of Aspire Podcast. I've got also the language of behavior up there. And then hopefully, we got this new channel with the VIBE Edu Podcast too. So I'll put that in there for folks to check out. And that's a growing channel also. So, man, Mitch, I'm just excited about partnering with you in a couple different ways. And then we didn't even talk about this yet, but VIBE Edu, the event, I get to be on a panel with you.
Yes. And I don't know if you can put that link. I think there's tickets still available. They're really unique, live, in person. I don't think you can call it a conference, maybe event. But yes, the two of us get to meet. And I consider Josh one of my closest friends, and
agreed.
You know how this works in the modern world. We actually get to not only meet in real life in August 1?
August 1st, yeah.
August 1st in Los Angeles, California. All are welcome. We get to not only meet in person, but we get to be on a panel together. So
I know. And I'm hoping our tables are close together too. We just found out too.
Like tables with our books and all that.
Yeah, with a premium ticket, I guess. You get to go in early and meet the speakers. And so, yeah, I mean, there's like things that just keep coming up that we didn't even know existed with this
Get yourself to LA in August, everybody. That's only when this comes out. There's only like 2 weeks left, so it's probably
it's just a few days. Yeah, it's not very long.
Sorry.
Get your tickets if there's any available, and we're super excited about the event. Obviously, to see each other, but then also just like the impact that we know this is going to occur with Kim's vision. All the people that have been there. I know I've connected with several people online or had meetings with people that are going to be speaking, and they're just real, authentic folks. And so it's going to be really fun to be in person with those people, but then also those in attendance. They've been reaching out to us too about like how excited they are. So we can already feel like the passion and energy that's going to be there in Anaheim, California. Cool. So yeah, check that out.
Man. Tell you, one of the reasons I'm excited to meet in person, not just, of course, meet in person, I will just be coming from the annual Visible Learning Conference. I got invited to speak there. My publisher's Corwin. But I say all that to say I get to meet John Hattie, and I have met on Zoom, who I have a whole appendices in my book around his effect size work. But I get to meet him in person, but also meet Zaretta Hammond in person. When she's leaving the event, I'm coming, and we've coordinated that we're going to meet in real life because we've never met in real life either. So it'll be fun to tell you all about that.
You're going to be on cloud 9, man. I'm jealous.
It's going to be cool. Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, I get to meet the Mitch Weathers in person, so I'm more excited about that than anyone else.
I live up to it. Yeah.
So we'll see each other soon. We'll hopefully see everyone that's listening. If not, again, we'll see you online, and we hope that you're having a wonderful summer. With that, thank you so much again, Mitch, for being on the Aspire to Lead podcast.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Always enjoy it.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.